Look for the chat box on the side or bottom of the video player. This is where you can type your message. Click inside the chat box and use your keyboard to type out what you want to say. You can type words, use emojis, or even ask questions. Once you've typed your message, press the enter key on your keyboard or click the send button. Your comment will then appear in the chat for everyone watching the live stream to see. If you want to send another comment, just type it in the chat box again and press enter or send. Your new comment will show up below your previous one.
Summer of anxiety and distress for many Jamaican students thinking of advancing their education and professional development in the United States. Last year, more than 1 million students from around the world made it into U.S. universities. But frankly speaking, the numbers are expected to be much lower this year as the Trump administration is taking a fresh look at student visas and what's happening on U.S. campuses. We have the U.S. immigration attorney who will talk to us on that and give us an update on immigration matters generally. Also, we are joined by Pro Vice Chancellor and Principal of UWI, Dr. Desmond Williams. Then, of course, frankly speaking, this podcast will take on local matters too, including the controversy over the appointment of Dennis Chung as head of the Financial Investigation Division, FID. This is the 169th episode of the Frankly Speaking Jamaica Podcast. Regular presenters Desmond Richards and Winnie Brown are with us today. Thank you, our viewers, for joining us live. We welcome questions and comments on the podcast as illustrated at the top of the program. You may also send by WhatsApp to 876-503-9995. We'll make every effort to hear your comment, question. Remember to subscribe to the Frankly Speaking Jamaica YouTube channel if you haven't done so as yet. It's easy, as is being demonstrated. Welcome to Donald Vernon, attorney who practices immigration law, elder law, and estate planning in New York, and to Professor Desmond Williams, as we said earlier, Pro Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University of the West Indies. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
So much.
Thank you very much, Franklin and team.
Good. Well, we want to start with you, Mr. Vernon, and Desmond is with us, and Winnie is. What is happening now with regard to student visas, and what advice would you give to a Jamaican student who is either about to get a visa or just got one and is considering travel to the U.S. to university?
Well, let's deal with some factual information first. Yes, indeed, the Trump administration on May 28th did instruct the State Department to not schedule any further interviews for student visas. And so,
sorry, but that's it's such an important point. I wanted to say it again. The administration advised the missions not to schedule any more visa appointments.
In fact, the language they use is that there is a pause on all further interviews for student visas. But I don't want to I want to bring clarity by further explaining that according to the news and according to the Trump administration, the people who has already secured interviews will not be affected. The only people who will be affected are people who are making new applications for those interviews. Now, of course, one of the issues that cause a lot of pain is that for the new people who needs to make appointments is that they have to pay, first get admitted, go through that process to a college or university here in the United States, and then they have to make a down payment on that tuition before they can schedule an interview. So it is extremely painful for people of, whether or not you have great means or not, it's not fun to lose your money, and it's not fun to turn people's lives upside down. And in fact, if you've been planning to travel to the United States to avail yourself to the excellent education that it provides, and then all of a sudden, without warning, you're told, all the plan and all the investments you've made in making this happen, we're no longer entertaining your request. And so that's what's at work in this moment. There's a particular focus, though, on Chinese students, and the other piece that I need to share with your audience, sir, is that the rationale for making such a drastic action, or taking such a drastic action, is that they want to develop and or further develop and expand the vetting process to look into um, applicants' social media posting. In particular, they're looking for criticism of the Israel Gaza war, or Israel Hamas war, that is being conducted right now. And so, that's their reason for turning people's lives upside down. And at the end of the day, um, you know, people just have to scour their social media posts and well, let me say it this way. If you have not been engaged in having public commentary around the Israel Gaza Hamas issue, then in terms of them looking at your social media posts, you may not have much to worry about. But if you have been talking against U.S. policy, which is the support of Israel in that war, then that can become a problem. But at the end of the day, there is no more interviews going forward until they put it back online, and they have not given us a timeline when that would happen.
Oh, all right. It sounds a very well, as you say, it has upended some people's lives. That Professor Williams, are you there? Wanted to ask you how you reflect on that and whether the university is with us. But I think you just yes, yes, Prof. I just wanted to. I don't know if you heard all of that from Mr.
Yes.
Vernon. Good. So so Prof, what's happening at the university? Is there any thinking? Is it too late in the day for you to adjust courses, programs, and reach out to all of those people from all over the place who are confused, who are going to be hesitant, or who have just made up their mind that they're not going to try the US this year? Is it too late? And is there any thinking at the university on that matter?
Well, let me first say though, Franklin, that at the UWI, our approach is not to exploit the situation in the United States. That's not our approach at all. And I wouldn't want it to be read in that light that we are just doing what we're doing because the United States has this kind of issue going on. That's not our approach. Our approach is more proactive. We recognize development from way back when in the geopolitical space, but we recognize that important. We have a world-class university. We are ranked in the top 5% of the best universities globally by Times Higher Education. And what we are doing at Mona and the rest of the university is to leverage that high ranking that we have as a campus and as a university. So in the top 5% of the best universities global, we have identified that we now need to leverage that reputation to gain much more in terms of student numbers and those things. And as you know, we have a strategic plan that speaks about the revenue revolution. So in essence, our mantra at UWI is that we're now monetizing our reputation. And so we have developed strategies to seek international students long before January 2020. So we have been in Africa, where we are encouraging recruiters to join us to sell what we have at the UWI. We have been in Asia, we have been in North America, and we are now actually going into Latin America as well. But the strategy we are using, we have enhanced that by actually using now various pathways. So we're looking at different segments of the population that would want to come to a UWI. We're looking at international students who want a space outside of their own country to come and do stuff that their country may not offer, things like reggae studies, cultural studies, stuff like that, right? Cricket studies and those types of things. So that's one segment. But there are also local persons who would travel North America, Western Europe, other places as well. We're saying to them, we have offerings right here at our university at Mona in Jamaica. You can get it for possibly a third of the price that you will have to pay when you go to international and go overseas and stuff. You can come here as well. So that's another segment that we're actually looking at. And then importantly, we're also looking at diaspora persons who say they want to have an interaction with their home country. They want to have an interaction with their motherland, where their parents are from, even to come and do a 6-week course, come and do a summer semester, stuff like that. So the truth is that UWI and the Mona campus especially have been developing this proactive strategy long before January 2020. So we're not trying to just exploit January 20, what is going on in the US, but we are more proactive about how we engage international students. And I want to make a point that it is not as effortless as people may think. And those of us in academia would know this. It's not as effortless as we think, that because something is now going on in the US, tomorrow morning, the students are going to say, since I can't go to the US, I will come to Jamaica, or I'll go to Barbados, I'll go to Trinidad. That's not how academia works, actually. Students don't just go to a university to get a degree. Students go to a university because of the ecosystem that is around the university as well. So when you travel to North America, for example, or Western Europe, you will recognize that the students who gravitate towards those places, when they complete their degree, they may have the opportunity to get a visa to stay in those countries and live. They may have the opportunity to work on some of the largest multinational corporations before they head back home. So when they head back home to their country of origin, the truth is that that prestige that they have gained from studying overseas will now translate into them getting much more recognition and opportunities within their place of origin as well. So the truth be told, it is not just that the students are going to say, this is happening in the US, I come to Jamaica. When they're finished and when they come to Jamaica and they say, I'm going to do an MBA at the Mona School, for example, or am I going to do a degree in economics? When they're finished in Jamaica, where are they going to actually get a job within the ecosystem to enhance their reputation before they go back home? That's part of the issue that they have to face as well. So what we have recognized is that we also have to find niche areas at the UWI, which can help them now to gain a degree or something that can be of greater value. So for example, Jamaican culture is a major asset in the global sphere of cultural development, etc. So we are looking at areas like those where we can say, use cultural studies as one of those areas that you're drawing people to. When they study cultural studies in Jamaica and they go to Bob Marley Museum, Peter Tosh, and those places, these are live things that they're seeing. When they go to Pinnacle to see Rastafari and stuff, these are no live things that they can bring back home. Similarly, medicine. We have, as you know, tropical medicine is a major area of medicine as well. That is growing. Not very many places in the world that doctors are looking at issues to do with tropical diseases and stuff like that. If they come to our campus here at Mona or any other University of West Indies campuses, and they study medicine and understand the whole issues around tropical disease, around nutraceuticals, etc. No, that provides them with a lot more value added than if they were to stay in London or to stay in New York or to stay in Toronto to try and study tropical medicine.
Well, how you get a chance to sell that message, bro? How do you get a chance to sell that message, to put that message to them wherever they are?
But that's what we're doing, and that's the point we're making. So that's how UWI has designed this strategy, and that is the strategy now that we're rolling out. So that's the strategy we're rolling out now to say to you, come to us because we have these special areas that are value added that you can benefit from. Not so much come to us because the US is having a problem.
Okay, beautiful.
So that's really what the difference I want to point out.
One of the issues one of the issues that I think academia should be concerned about is the fact that Trump and his supporters are trying to choke freedom of expression. Here it is that they have decided to discriminate against students who speak out against the atrocities taking place in Gaza. Now, as far as I know, that is freedom of expression. And therefore, is there a way where universities can work together to fight back against that attitude? So is it possible that universities then should be coming together, joining UII, Caribbean, UII and other local universities, joining ranks with their international partners to fight against the Trump administration attempt to choke freedom of expression? Is that something that universities could look at?
Well,
Professor,
I'm not.
Professor? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I'm not. I'm not using the language of a kind of a fight back kind of issue. Universities are here to be much more balanced, and what we have to do is to make all views contend. Because some people will be pro something and some people will be anti something. The university space is that space where all ideas must contend. So it is not a fight back that we're trying to do at universities. What we're trying to do is to create balance in terms of regional, global discourse on issues. And so we don't want it to be seen as an antagonistic thing that the university is taking on to say we're fighting back. What the university ought to do is to bring to the fore the various issues that are now contending, because one side says this is what they want to do, another side says this is what they want to do. The university must be in the center that pulls everything together.
On that point,
Go ahead,
Professor,
Mr. Vernon.
I think the point that's being made is that, in fact, there is something for universities to fight for in this instant, because it is the right to speak to the various side. And what this administration is trying to say is the side that doesn't line up with my agenda is not allowed to speak. And so we're talking about defending free speech. We're talking about defending First Amendment rights. And so if universities stay out of this fight, we're going to lose that fight, and you won't have free speech. You won't have both sides of the story. So I would encourage you to speak to your colleagues about, in this instant, universities are one of the safeguards and one of the guardrails, should I say, for democracy. And if you are silenced, and if your students are silenced, we will lose the democracy. And as you know, Professor, as an insular group, the only protection we have is democracy. And so we are at risk by being quiet.
Mr. Vernon, I'm going to ask you something before. I don't know if Professor wants to respond.
And hold on there, Franklin. Professor, at the University of the West Indies, what is the University of the West Indies doing to promote discussion on the genocide that is taking place in Gaza? I can remember as a student, back in the earlier days at the university, I would find that, for example, there would be forums at the university dealing with these. The lecturers were more active. Nowadays, I find that even the university students, they are not talking about these world affairs where human beings are being slaughtered in front of us. And yes, we students, we are studying, but remember, university is a high institution of the university. Universities are not just ordinary schools. Universities are centers of thought.
Give Prof a chance to respond there, because I also want to go back to something Mr. Vernon said.
Okay, so let me start with the back end, because with the last observation by Desmond, because Desmond, if you look at what the university is doing, I'll speak specifically at our university here in Jamaica, our campus here in Jamaica. The truth is that you will be very surprised to see the number of activities that the university is carrying out along these lines. We have Vice Chancellor Fora on these issues very regularly. Departments have their own fora, their own curriculum, their own curricula on these kinds of issues. These things are widespread. The truth is that I don't think that everybody would think that their time when they were there, this is the best time ever. But the truth is that things have evolved, and people approach these things in different ways as they have evolved. The university is participating in the general discourse on these kinds of issues. We have fora, we have all kinds of things. We have vice chancellor forum, we have conferences, we have seminars, we have symposia, all about these kinds of issues, whether it be Gaza, whether it be Rwanda, whether it be climate crisis, all of these things. The university is extremely activist. So if you just take a moment to look at our annual report and see the kinds of things that we're doing, you get a better sense of how activist the university is in terms of these kinds of things that we're championing.
I think the public needs to be more aware of these things, though. I am not certain that these activities that you are talking about and the public is aware of them.
Well, everything is open to the public. We have UWI TV, for example, which is a major media partner which carry these things. The things are open. You can go on our social media pages, our Facebook Live. Most times they're on live on Facebook. You can go in. All of these things are there. The real question that we have to ask ourselves. See, you have one here, for example, the Grab for Gaza, Vice Chancellor's for. All of these things are there. The question that really needs to be asked, whether or not the society as a whole is genuinely interested in these issues these days. That is a bigger question that we have to answer, because the university will be there as the supply side and be supplying these things. But is there a demand for it in society? That's the question that we now have to answer. Has society now gone to a place where it becomes so individualistic that nobody cares about big issues anymore? Everybody's caring about bread and butter issue. How am I going to get the next meal on my table tomorrow? These are real questions, Desmond, that we have to ask ourselves as a society as well, whether or not we have a demand side for the things that the university is pushing. As it relates to what Vernon said, that we're fighting for something. That's the point I'm making, though. When you're trying to do these kinds of things, you don't want it to be seen as a confrontation, because the truth is that where we are now in the world, where the world is at a place, I don't know if you recognize it, but the world is at a place where confrontation is not the best way to solve issues. The world is at a place where discussion and dialogue solve issues. It is not like 40, 50 years ago when once you disagree, you go on the streets, so you bring placards and you say you get your way. And things can remain. So people are saying, hold on, that methodology work was there before. It hasn't really delivered results. So how do we go forward? Dialogue, conversation.
Professor,
and the point
Hold on,
let
him finish, because I want to come back to the visa issue with Mr. Vernon.
Yes, so
you
I want to
just
quickly wrap up, frankly, to say that universities, Vernon, are there to now actually facilitate and push that kind of dialogue. That's really what I want to land on.
Okay. But Mr. Vernon, I want to come back to something you suggested and Desmond was suggested. I'm coming out of Desmond's questioning.
Yeah.
I was just speaking with somebody in the States today, a supporter of the of President Trump, and she was saying, tell the students, come to the US, go to their classes, do related university activities, get their fantastic degrees or whatever, and go home and do what they're doing. Don't want to come and get involved in the protests that might be going on. You just keep a narrow vision, do your work, do your stuff. And like you have said, if they haven't done any Gaza problems, they may not get any Gaza communication. What's your point on that now, in the context of what you were saying?
Well, my point on that is that universities is there to build the total human being.
Not hearing you so well.
Yes, my point is universities' mission aren't just to educate, but it's to build leaders and to build the entire human being, right? So if you just go and focus, go to your classes, go back to your dorm, and don't, get involved in extracurricular activity, get involved in clubs, get involved with lectures, get involved with things that are outside of the scope of the narrow education, you will come out a machine. And our world don't need machines. We need leaders. We need leaders that are going to be moral and have a moral standing and have a moral compass. And so when we talk about just go to school, learn your lesson, shut your mouth, don't be concerned about moral injustice that are existing around you. You
In
are
other
on the
people's
developing.
country. In other people's country.
Well, sir,
Franklin,
Yeah,
listen,
Desmond, let him
there is
finish. I
no
gotta allow you, Desmond. Gotta allow you.
justice, morality. It has no borders, sir. And so
Okay.
you know, it is not possible to invite me to your country because there was an application and there was an acceptance of that application, and then you're going to say no. But when you come, you're not allowed to develop yourself into a total, human being. You're only allowed to do this part. Well, if that is going
Desmond,
to be the position of the State Department, then you're going to find that American universities will go out of business sooner than you believe.
Desmond, other
and the other
response.
thing,
Because the reason
the
for
other thing,
Go ahead.
the other thing that we must understand, we are talking about human beings. So I don't want to hear an argument about country. If you are in Europe, if you are in China, if you are in Lebanon, if you are in Africa, it's human beings over there. People with blood, people with heart. So when you see human beings are being killed, you can't remain silent. And as I made the point earlier on, universities are not high schools, Universities are not centers that are made to just provide people with degrees. When you go to a university, you must emerge as a leader, a job provider, someone who has access higher learning. You are not an ordinary thinker. That is who a university student ought to be.
All right. Winnie,
If
I
I
will
could
see
just make
some a
one
few
point,
comments coming in, Winnie. But Mr. Vernon, just go ahead and move on because I want to get back to Pro.
yeah, one of the points that need to be made here is that this is really not about Israel or Gaza. This is about the Trump administration really moving forward with a attacking the guardrails to democracy. The universities and colleges of the United States has traditionally been one of the primary guardrails again, for democracy. And so in an attempt to transform the form of government that we enjoy here in the United States, there is a need to start the process of going after the main source where opposition will give birth, and that is the university and the young people in this country. He's also gone after the media. He's also gone after law firms that represent people he perceives to be his enemy. And so I don't see this. Well, I see the whole issue around, can people speak their mind politically about what's going on in Gaza, what's going on in other parts of the world, as a ruse. The real issue here is that Harvard is being attacked because it's the number one university in the United States in terms of history, in terms of wealth. And if you're able to defeat Harvard, you then will intimidate
You have the other pins.
the
You have the
rest
other
of the
pins lined up.
university.
All right. I
Yes,
want to
and they
know.
will then bend the knee, and with that bending of the knee, they will suppress the students that are in their care.
All right. Professor, I wanted to ask you. You expressed a concern that you didn't want it to seem that the universe that you is wanting to exploit the situation with facing universities in the U.S. now, and that this is a program that you have been on a particular program already. But if this gap is going to exist in the I want to call it market, but the student needs, and if the you can use this as an opportunity, don't you see that is a great avenue to go down? And can you also give us a sense of how many of your students now are international students?
Well, we have about maybe 2-3% of our population now as internet. When you say international, though, we're taking extra regional.
Yes, that's right.
I figure that's what you're
Because
talking
it's the
about.
racial
Yeah, maybe
difference. Yes,
about 1-2% extra regional.
yes,
And what we're trying to do, as I said, our strategic plan was clear that we need to grow that to roughly about 10% over the next 5 years to
yes,
2028 or thereabout, I think, 2027,
yes.
2028. So we are
But
moving towards
this is
that
an
growth.
opportunity for you, Prof.
No, what I'm saying, I don't like the construct, Franklin, of us pretending that we're exploiting the US situation, because that's not what the universe is here to do at all. So when we say it's an opportunity for us, it speaks very, what I would say, kind of individualistic to say something bad goes on there, take it up. That's not what the universe is about at all. Yeah, and I don't want to give that impression that you is in this because it's an opportunity for you. No, that's not how the higher education market works at all. As I think somebody said earlier, we're an ecosystem, and within the ecosystem, we look where our niches, where there are things that we can do differently from others, and we work together. Because higher ed is indeed one industry. It's not just about money making. It's about the holistic development of human beings, and we don't want to see it as a kind of a capitalist accumulation of wealth kind of thinking. And so when we say, oh, there's great opportunities there for UWI, it gives the notion of this kind of wealth accumulation through the capitalist means of production. That's not what universities are there for at all. Universities are there to develop the total human being to become citizens who carry on the role of social justice, who making sure that humanity can exist and we can coexist with differences and stuff like that. We do that not because we're going to make a profit. We are doing that because it is a good thing to advance development, to advance the population. So it is not just an opportunity that you is looking. You is saying, while there are crises, out of crisis you can make good, and we're saying there are great things that can happen with our students who are looking at other places to study. If you face this challenge right now, you can come here, but it is not. I mean, what it would not be the greatest thing for Jamaica to train all Jamaican students. That doesn't make a university great. So we wouldn't want to have Jamaica University of the West Indies training only Jamaican students. We want students from other places as well to cross-fertilize. And it's the very same thing in the United States. We want our students to go to the United States, to go to Canada, to go to other places, and we cross-fertilize knowledge creation. We build networks, we build research collaboration and stuff, and then they come back and we benefit from it. So I don't want us to see the university thing in this kind of a us or them approach, because universities don't operate like that at all. We really need to be a part of a broader ecosystem. So we want our students to go, we want the students to come, and we want to cross-fertilize the knowledge creation process.
Mr. Vernon, thanks, Prof. Mr. Vernon, so can you tell me now, what's your prescription? What would you be telling a young Jamaican student who really is looking forward to going to do the studies in the US? They've got a visa, as they come through. Give us an understanding there.
And Franklin, before ask Mr. Vernon too, because I understand that there were some students who were afraid to travel. I'm talking about Jamaican and other students, but Jamaican students studying in the United States. They were afraid to travel for holidays because they were not certain about their immigration status.
Okay, so I'll take the first one. Yes, I'll take the first one first. My take on it is that we're currently living in a political environment that stifles free speech, that diminish your ability to express yourself, to live in a moral space, to call or to speak truth to power. And, as a former student government president, I truly believe that, your education and your development.
Mr. Vernon, I don't want to interrupt you, but I feel impelled to. Look,
yes,
I watch a lot of US television and follow a lot of US media. And I don't see any diminution in their ability to criticize, to take on the administration. to
No, and
any free
I'll say
speech
this, right?
impediment? I don't see
Oh,
that,
there is
Mr.
plenty.
Vernon. So is it fair for you to
Yes,
say that?
well, the reason you do see it, you just may not recognize it. And so the way that the Trump administration is going about stifling free speech is not by
Oh my, what has happened to Mr. Vernon there? We lost
We
him there
lost
for
him.
a second. I hope we'll get him back very soon. And we lost Winnie. Because we are hoping to get him back. But Desmond, as we try to get him back, you were mentioning that matter of some Jamaican students. Are you saying that? Because what I heard is that there are some Jamaican students who are already in college in the U.S. who are supposed to have finished their program. They finish a year or 2 years in the program. They'll normally be coming down for holidays, but there's doubt as to whether they will be allowed back into the States based upon all of the immigration and visa issues. Is that what you're saying, Desmond? Or tell us what you say.
Yes, that is what I was saying. That I have some reports like that, where Jamaican students who were studying in the United States were reluctant to come back for holidays because they were not certain about based on what is happening with the immigration situation.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I don't know if that still exists or that has been cleared up. I don't know.
Okay. We're still trying to get Mr. Vernon. Thanks, Desmond. Prof, we have about 4 or 5 minutes for this segment. I wanted to ask you, what is the, because again, when I'm thinking about students, and I know and I buy it and I get what you have said about the opportunistic, capitalistic model that I'm suggesting or context that I'm suggesting and so on. What is the state of the university now with regard to its finances? Winnie is not with us. I see a comment from Mr. Allen. I see a comment from Marshall E. White. But Winnie hopefully will take them, of course. But yes, Prof. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You didn't finish the point, Franklin. You were saying.
Yes. What is the state of the finances of the university, and what's the immediate prospects of additional programs for revenue generation?
Okay. So, I mean, everybody knows by now that the university as a whole, generally on the operation side, we always do fairly well. Not fairly well, we always done very well. So if you look at if you take up our financial statements, for example, I don't want to get too deep into this, but take up our financial statements. Consistently, the university runs a surplus on its operation, consistently. So just give you an example, over the last 6 years, for example, the Mona campus now, using that as an example, would have run an accumulated surplus on operations now of 10 billion Jamaican dollars, which is about 60 million US, over the last 6 years. So we manage our affairs in such a way that whatever revenue we get in, we can actually take care of our operational needs. The big challenge comes in when we look at our post-employment benefits, which is a huge liability on our
sorry, say that again. When you look at what? Prof, I missed that.
Post-employment benefits.
Okay.
That's the major drag on our financial performance, because we have some extremely generous benefits that are unfunded. And these benefits, because they're unfunded, what happens is that each time that we do our financial statements, etc., the actuaries and the auditors ask us to make provisions for them. And because you have to put provision for these things, then they make a drag on your financial performance. So an example that I just gave you.
But there are benefits won already. There are benefits to people. Benefits won already.
Repeat that.
There are benefits won already.
Yes. They're there already. So post-employment benefits, yeah. Okay. But when you look at it, as I said before, we have roughly about 60 million US that we would have accumulated over the last 6 years in terms of operating surplus. But by the time you get below that line and start accounting for post-employment benefits, you're amassing a major loss of roughly about 70 million US, because the post-employment benefits accumulation over that period wipes out the entire 60 million US that you would have gained.
The reason I pointed out, Rob, that there are already benefits run is what you're going to be able to do about it, because you can't take those benefits back. So
no, you can
and lecturers are planning to strike tomorrow.
And lecturers planning to strike tomorrow, as Desmond said.
Yeah, but you can restructure. No. We have to be careful. We don't want to go back into those, again, antagonistic mode about strikes and so. Strikes not going to help you, because you can strike for something, and if there is nothing to pay you, you can't be paid. So if you strike tomorrow, and it's unfortunate that we can't get the kind of revenue to pay you, what is the purpose of the strike? What's the purpose of the strike? So you're striking for something that you will never be able to gain. Because if we shut down the university tomorrow, then the truth is that we just don't have the money to liquidate it. And as a result of that, what are you going to do? So that's not the solution. The solution is not a strike. The solution is to have a conversation about how you can restructure what it is that you have, that it can give you a greater autonomy over the management of those resources, so that you can actually manage them in a judicious way in order to now generate greater revenue. So, for example, you can find an asset that is generating income to now use that to back the liability, and then you say, okay, if the liability is backed by this asset, get the asset to work for us. These are different ways of dealing with these things. So when your actuaries come in and say you have an asset of $6 billion, this $6 billion can generate 10% over the next 50 years for you. The value of the liability automatically goes down. So this is not about demonstration and carry on again to make noise. It's about sober discussion, understand the technicalities of what you're doing, have a sober discussion about it. If you're serious about ensuring,
I hope the lecturers will buy that argument.
Right? So it is about understanding the technical nature of what you're doing. Because it will be good if you have a grandfather who could say, okay, you have a liability, I'm writing you a check, and your problem is solved.
Endowment.
Exactly. You don't have that. So because you don't have that, you have to know things strategically about how you position yourself. So that's one part of it, Franklin and colleagues. The other part, as you talk about now, is to generate more revenue. Because the truth is that when you look at our financial performance over the last 10 years or so, the issue is not so much about cost overrun. Because since, for example, the last 6 years, when you look at our cost line, we have literally increased our cost line by roughly about 2%, even though inflation is running at 5, 6, 7, 8%. The major increase that you saw this year, I used the last financial year as a case in point. We had a 9% increase in cost and a 13% increase in revenue. The 9% increase in cost, about 6 or 7% of that related to one item, which is a 15% increase in government in the salaries of the staff. Take out the salary increase, our cost would have been flat. Take out the salary increase.
But you can't take out the salary increase, Prof.
No, that's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying.
I know.
If you take out that cost, your cost of operation would have been completely flat. So the issue for us is to generate more revenue. That's the issue. And I'm building up to where you ask the question, because so the issue for us is not so much about cost cutting, while we have to deal with that on the post-employment benefit side, because those are the costs that have gone up significantly. The issue for us is to generate revenue to manage those things. And so we're putting a number of things in place. So we have a global health program, and I just explained to you why global health is important, because of the uniqueness that UWI would have in terms of things like tropical medicine, nutraceutical, and all those kinds of things that we can actually leverage. So we're building a global health program, and we're going to be attracting students into not just MBBS and nursing, but we're looking at things like speech therapy. We're looking at things like radiography. We're looking at all of those kinds of things that are going to generate revenue for us. So that's supposed to be a big revenue earner for us. We're also looking, those of you who have been following these things, you realize on Thursday evening, we launched something called UWI Star, what UE Star is doing, and this is going to be a big game changer in the marketplace. UE Star is now that arm of UWI that is going to credential the market, that you don't if you don't really need a degree per se, but you want to upskill, you want a short course, you want all those things. UE Star is that medium that is going to deal with that for you. Again, that's a major revenue earner. So again, people now can't say that the UE is not meeting their needs, because anything that you want to do, you don't have to have the degree, you don't have to have the CXCs and the GCEs and stuff to come to UE Star. Say to us that you want to upskill yourself. These are the things you want.
We're going to invite you back to talk about UE Star, because it seems to be a departure of the university from what people consider its staid position on some issues. Let's just say that on some issues. So you're saying that people.
It's an issue because we have to be creative about how we earn the revenue, because we realize the revenue problem that we have. Yeah. So we have to do those kinds of things. So and there are a number of other things that we're doing, as you would have also heard recently.
We're going to invite you back once you are as kind as you were today in coming forward.
Yes, because I would love to talk about the revenue generation that we're doing at the UWI to deal with those things. And we have a lot of new programs, new courses, and all those things coming on stream. And they're all there. We'll be launching a school, as you know, in September, of the School of Health and Rehabilitative Science. And that school is to help a lot of the kids who are now on the spectrum and also who need screening to get into improve their reading ability and all those kinds of things. We're going to train people to train them. So, for example, in Jamaica, we have about 8 speech pathologists. Only 8. And most of them
can't. That is a big need, Prof. I can tell you, I have a little touch with the school system. That is a big need.
Yes.
Prof, before you go, Prof, I know some people. I am working with some people who want to put on a forum about the Gaza situation, and they would like if the university would facilitate that.
Yes, man. Anytime, just come to us. And as I said, we're a public university, so, and all debates must contend. So we're happy for that.
So if we go to university, it will be facilitated, right?
Yes, man, for sure. Okay. As the producer just put up a while ago, the Vice Chancellor has a forum called the Vice Chancellor's Forum, which is not only specific to Mona, but goes across the entire university system. So you could easily incorporate in the Vice Chancellor's Forum, for example.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Thank you, Prof.
All right. So Franklin, we will talk more for sure. Yes?
Thank you, Prof. Thanks a lot. As Professor
Yes, and thanks to everyone.
Pro-Vice Chancellor of the University and Principal, I nearly said President, and Principal of the University. Thank you very much. Winnie has not been able to pick up. Thank you so much. Winnie has not been able to pick up on our comments. I see a lot of comments coming in, but we're going to make Desmond turn very quickly, Desmond, to the matter of the row brewing since last week over the appointment of Dennis Chung as principal technical director of the FID, Financial Investigation Division. Desmond.
Well, one of the things that the authorities need to explain is why the qualification requirements were changed. When the ad for the head of the FID was first announced, one of the requirements was that the applicant must have 12 years experience in law enforcement.
And about 5 of those was the senior.
Yes.
At the senior level.
No,
yes.
That was changed. Now the authorities should explain to us why that was changed. Because what we know, the FID is an organization that was established to investigate financial crimes, right? And therefore, Dennis publicly defended the Prime Minister and criticized and objected to the Integrity Commission report on the Prime Minister. And we know that the Prime Minister report has been submitted to the FID. And so far, Dennis, whose views supports the government? His views supports the government. And for him to be appointed to that position, the question is he going to be, how is he going to treat with the Prime Minister report? And therefore, the question out there is whether or not Dennis was chosen as someone who will not deal with the Prime Minister's report to the FID. And that is the issue that the government must explain to us, right? You see.
All right, coming back into it. There's some questions coming in, some comments coming in, and I see Referee Ward is saying the writing is on the wall. I see. Help me with those numbers. Winnie, can you take forward? Let's just take some of these now.
Yes.
Winnie. Okay, somebody's saying, but this is not. Is Mary was saying this is, but this is not the region of Gaza. That's not me. That's Richards. Winnie, are you hearing? Can you take the comments now? Just to put some up for you. Winnie's having a hard time. Desmond, one of the points you made there is interesting to me. Do we need to have somebody who is not a political supporter in this office? Clearly not a political, demonstrated as not a political supporter. Or can we have justice from somebody who, as indicated in speech before, as Dennis has said, indicated in his comments on the matter of the Prime Minister's financial business. Can we have justice from somebody like that? Desmond?
I don't know. Dennis, in his public utterances, is in support of the government, right? Mm-hmm. And for him to deal with this report and from the Prime Minister, which is a very serious report, the FID.
And I must just say, it's one of the most pressing thing anybody turning up to work, as he is on June 2nd, should have to do. Most pressing, very important to Jamaica.
Yes, and therefore I don't know. That is the big question over Dennis' head right now, and the authorities need to explain. You see, one of the things that we must, the Integrity Commission, institutions like the Integrity Commission, the FID, we need them. We are not saying people don't have their political support,
Basis.
or their political feelings. We are not saying that they don't have them, and they should have them either. But we are saying that we need independent thinking people to head these organizations. And therefore, to put Dennis Chung there at FID is a big question. And we don't think, well, I don't think that he's the right person for that job right now.
And right person for that job, meaning his political views or his qualifications? Because his qualifications for the job, as is now, was advertised, is fine. His qualifications are fine. Once they took out that matter,
well,
what he applied for, what he was appointed for, is the job at the FID on the basis that he qualified for what was there, not what was there prior.
Mm. Well, what is there now? What he applied for? Then yes, he's qualified for that. But the nature of the work of the FID require that qualification, because you are going to be investigating financial crimes, and you have to be somebody who understands these matters, right? Mm-hmm. So therefore, I believe that qualification for that post is necessary, right?
Yeah.
So yes, for what was advertised, the changes that were made. He's qualified for that. But then his political sentiments, there are questions over his political sentiments. And therefore I think
that this post requires at this time no controversy. It should not be filled by anybody or surrounded by any controversy at all. There's too much riding on it. There's too much at stake. The Prime Minister's financial affairs have been referred to that body. And we should be very content as Jamaicans. We should be in a position to feel very sure that whoever is heading it is going to be interested, as the police tend to say, in going where the evidence leads them, taking on the issues as they see them, not to be distracted by any outside noise or their own perceived bias or their own comments that they might have made before. They have made it.
Yes. The other thing that is very plentiful now, political promises. Now, the number of promises that are being made right now, what is going to be done? Hospitals are going to be built here. I am housing for hospital health workers. No, one of the things is that this is one of the features of Jamaica's political system, and it has gone nowhere. Every time when it comes around to election time, the politicians go around.
Sorry, Desmond, just give me a second. Let me see if I can bring in Winnie, because we have lost her so often, and we have lost her. Winnie, are you hearing me? Are you hearing us? Winnie, are you hearing us? We have lost her so often, and I really wanted her to get in before.
Hello, Winnie. Are you hearing us?
No, she's not hearing us, Desmond.
No.
Sure, finish the point you're making, Desmond. I don't know why we.
And as I was saying, every time when it comes around to election, the politicians go around and promise to change the world, right, for the voters. No, only what they are seeking, they are trying to convince the voters that, okay, give us a chance. Now, when they get that chance,
that is international, man. Not a Jamaican thing, that Desmond.
No. Well, I am not saying this is not international, but I'm talking about Jamaica. Because why I'm talking about Jamaica is that I have seen these things so many times, and at the end of the day, the lot of the Jamaican people remain the same, right? Look how many people are without water. Look at the road conditions. Look at the health situation. Look at the education situation. What has been done? Why are those promises? Why those promises are not fulfilled? And therefore, I am urging the voters not to listen to those promises, because they are not going to be fulfilled.
I hear you making that point also on Rebel Radio. Yours, Desmond's Rebel Radio. He makes that point regularly in talking to his people, especially out in the rural areas. I want to really say that's our show for this week. We thank all of you in the audience for watching live, and we invite you to share the podcast with your friends, colleagues, and relatives. You can watch this podcast anytime on the Frankly Speaking YouTube channel. This podcast, which is just is recorded for that purpose. Please remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. We apologize about Winnie's difficulties this week, technical difficulties. Winnie is the person who normally would also read the comments and questions. We had a few this week. I'm sorry that we weren't able to take them. We'll try to respond to some of them off air. Please remember to subscribe, as we have said. Special thanks to our guest this week, U.S. Attorney Donald Vernon, and he too had a technical issue on his side. Donald Vernon is in immigration and was telling us some very interesting things. Then we also had Pro Vice Chancellor of the University of the West Indies, Pro Vice Chancellor and Principal Denzel Williams. And he was giving us some insights, and we want to go back and discuss that STARS program at another time. Thanks to Joshua Black of Joshua Black Media Services for the graphics and the production. Thanks to Desmond Richards and Winnie Anderson Brown, our regular presenter. We're really grateful to them. I'm Franklin McKnight. Until then.